The whole point of this week is for it to not feel like Sunday morning, where you've got, as soon as this is over, we're going to go here, we got to go there, we got to go. The whole point of this week is to wait on God, to be in God's presence, and to not be in a hurry. And so Garth will probably finish his message right around 9 o'clock, maybe a little before that. And then the worship team will come back up. There will be no official dismissal. The altars will be open. We do need you to pick up your children at 9 that are downstairs. But bring them back up. And I just really want to encourage you to take full advantage of these days, to not be in a hurry, to slow down, to breathe, and to drink of the goodness of God. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. right here, Garth will be here again. And tomorrow night at 7 p.m. will be Brian White. I'm not going to give you any beyond that, but that's what's happening tomorrow. All right, Garth. I love Garth. I just love Garth. When I was on staff here, I was actually the youth pastor before Garth was, and pastor, and it's hard for me to call him Warren. He's pastor to me. Pastor Heckman, he wanted excellence in ministry. He expected us to be professional, and so we needed to have a shirt and tie. And so we reported to church in uniform. And then Garth joined the staff. And I remember Garth came in with shorts, sandals, barefoot, with no socks, T-shirt, and I don't know that a tie ever came out of my closet again after just that one. I mean, you broke the ground for us, but thank you. Thank you. Bro, we love you. We love your family. We are so grateful for the incredible deposit that is made, not just in this church, but in this region through your family. And, bro, we're really excited to hear what God's put on your heart. So come on and give us what you got, man.
Since I've been up here preaching. Am I on? I hit the, sorry, I didn't hit the button, sorry. It is truly an honor to be here, to be invited to speak tonight. I feel like the kid who was invited to go play in your volcano and I bring a match. I really take, I take speaking seriously. I take speaking here seriously, but there's a different element when you come home, and this is where I grew up. This is where I got in trouble. This is where I, first really got my feet wet in ministry, and then on top of that, I have such a deep respect for your pastor. Because he had such a huge influence on my life way before I ever became a pastor here on staff. When I was just a kid, he was in the college and career ministry, he and Brian, and it's just, it's nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking to speak. So Tom and Brian, if you guys could leave, I would really appreciate that. But it is definitely an honor. I could go on and on about all the different things that Tom has done in my own life, and I'll save it just to say that there are 3 different specific times that things that he said or things that he did changed me, and because it changed me, changed my ministry. And one was just an outlook on how I had my quiet time. Another one was a real strong reprimand that he gave me, and I got a few of those. Tom Alexander gave me a really good reprimand once. I wrote about it. Maybe you read the article. One of the best ones that I'll just take 30 seconds to share was when I started here. As Tom was saying, I came in as the youth pastor, kind of replaced him. He bumped up to college and career. And I'd only been here a couple months, maybe only a couple weeks. And Joe Steinke was junior high pastor. We shared an office. And he said, hey, every Tuesday morning, Tommy and I get together. We meet in his office. We have accountability time. And then we pray for one another. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. I'd love to be a part of it. And I'd never been a part of any type of accountability time. Accountability, yeah. I'm having a hard time. How about you? Yeah, I'm having a good time. Okay, let's pray. And that was it. And so I'll never forget the first meeting, went into his office, Joe and I, and we sat down. And so we kind of have a little bit of chit chat. And Tommy goes, well, this is where I'm at, man. And he shares something unbelievably intimate. And I'm sitting there going, I can't believe he's saying this. I can't believe he's saying, you don't say this. This is the stuff you hide. You don't share this. But on the outside, I'm very calm. I'm like, oh, yeah. And I had thought I had something to share that was relative and deep, and it wasn't at all. So I started to panic going, I got to come up with something good. I got to, not too good and not really real, but something that shows that I want to play this game, but I don't know. And then Joe goes and Joe shares something again, really intimate, and I was panicking, and I was like, okay, I was like, well, I think we need to pray for Donnie Shossi. He just doesn't like the youth, and he's just keeping me from reaching students for Jesus because he's upset about us spilling paint in the sanctuary, and I was like, oh. But out of that time, the honesty that grew out of that time made me really learn how to reflect on my walk and my life, and have always from that time on kept accountability in my life. So, Tom, thank you. About 17, 18 years ago, I was on a plane. I was flying from the Midwest to California. And it was one of those flights where you kind of get bored. It's a long flight. I pulled out a magazine, started reading an article. And it was an article about this journalist who interviewed a gentleman who had climbed Mount Everest the most of anyone at that time. And it wasn't always successful, but he had the most attempts and also had climbed to the top the most. And the article kind of journaled through the question and answer of all the things that this guy had gone through. And as the journalist begins to take note and write the article, he gets to a point where he says, you're telling me these stories where it's cost you a great amount of money. Every time you take this on, it costs you money. And it has cost you time. It takes months, sometimes years to plan. And you have to work around the weather and look at the weather reports. And then you've taken people and you've lost some of these people. They've lost their lives. And you yourself, you've lost fingers and toes. And your own health has suffered. And yet every year you go back and you try to do it again and you try to do it again. And it says, and the sacrifice and the sacrifice and the sacrifice. He said, is it worth it? And the journalist says that the guy looks at him and he leans across the table and he says, well, it's obvious. I'm going to possibly err tonight, and I don't mean to, on making me sound like a hero. And I don't have any problem with that, but that's not the point for tonight. So I want to preface what I'm about to say with that. When I was 6 years old, I was 4 years old, my parents came up with this genius idea when we were up in Minnesota at a lake to put me in a swimsuit, put tennies on my feet, socks and tennies, and then put me into skis, water skis, and try to teach me how to ski at the age of 4. And the reason why we had to put our feet in, tennis shoes because my feet were too small. I didn't realize at the time this was child abuse. And for about a whole afternoon, we kept trying. Ultimately, I learned how to ski, And as the story goes, I fell in love with it. Absolutely everything about water skiing. 2 skis, and then 1 ski, and then trick skis, and then jump skis. And we used to ski on pieces of plywood and on a shovel. And anything that would float, we tried to ski on it. And then I learned to ski with no skis. And once I learned how to barefoot, it was over. That's all I wanted to do. That was all that was most important to me. I wanted to ski for Tommy Bartlett Water Ski Show. And people said they don't make any money. I'm like, you get to ski for free. Who cares about money? I mean, this is it. And that's all. That was my goal. And that was number 1 in my life. And girls were a close second, but skiing was definitely first. I mean, if you said, go out with this cute girl or water ski, but I'm going skiing. I mean, don't get me wrong, she can ride in the boat, but I am going skiing. Long story short, right after high school, I dove into 8 inches of water and broke my neck, and had to have a halo vest and a bunch of therapy. And I remember when I got done, a year after all my physical therapy, sat down with the doctor, my mom and I, and we asked the doctor, can I water ski again? And he said, well, I really can't answer that. It's kind of a tricky question. And my mom was really pressing him. Well, if he was your son, what would you tell him? And he kept saying, I really can't say. He said, it's one of those things where you could water ski the rest of your life, barefoot water ski, because you go really fast. You go 60 miles an hour for some of the things you want to do. And said, you know, if you could water ski the rest of your life and fall 1,000,000 times and be fine. Or today you could be walking outside and trip on the curb and, you know, jerk your neck and drop over dead. He said, I really can't give you an answer. It's really up to you. So I decided to continue to water ski because I know what's best. Skied 5 more years, and then while we were still living here in Madison, I did something. I hurt my neck in the weight room, and something started to go weird with my hands that day. And then by nighttime, my hands just felt completely numb, like I couldn't move them. And I can't explain it other than maybe if you remember as a kid when you were really tired and your leg hurt real bad. And I kind of got that numb, achy feeling, like, and that was going through my arms. And the next day, and I remember that night I went to bed saying, okay, God, if you take care of this, then I promise I will never, ever do anything stupid again. Ever make one of those promises? I don't know if you know who I am. That's impossible, okay? Got up the next morning, my arms had gotten worse, so I called my neurosurgeon. He said, come in immediately. And I'd had some discs in my neck burst, and they burst forward rather than backward into my spinal cord, and my arms were starting to go paralyzed. The more the discs would burst, the more my hands would go paralyzed. So I had to go through the surgery and all this, whatever. Got done with all that, wore a neck brace. About 6 months later, sat down with him, had the same conversation. Can I go water skiing? Now, I'm married at this point. My mother's still in the room with me. You laugh, but all through the last 5 years when I'd go to the doctor, she would still be in the room with me. And she said, if it was your son, and this time he said, if it was my son, no. He would not. And like that, it was gone. And I remember for the first time in my life ever, I felt loss. Like real loss. In fact, I remember hearing, speaking of Brian White, talk about how he hurt his leg and basketball was gone. And I remember at that time, because I was a young kid, going, God, what's the big deal? It's basketball. It's not like it's water skiing, you know? But I remember, boom, it was gone. I felt loss. When I got married, I'm going to ramble here for a while, so just if you're taking notes, put your pen down. We'll bring it together. I got married, and I don't know if you know this, but I was going to have the greatest marriage in the world. I had modeled in my home, I think, the greatest marriage. My mom and dad, you know, they're in their 70s. My dad's still, you know, making out with my mom and holding her hand, and they're still madly in love, and I love the idea of marriage. I was going to get married, and I was going to be the same way, and marriage was going to be awesome, and I got married, and it was hell on earth. I'm not laughing. It was hell on earth. My wife was psycho. I'm still not laughing. I'm not talking behind her back. I've shared this openly many times. Those 5 years was bipolar, insane, mental, pick a term, it fits. And I remember thinking, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I'm supposed to be in ministry, and I've married a woman who has threatened to kill me if I go to sleep at night. And I remember thinking, here, I have my mom and dad, greatest marriage in the world, and my marriage is... And I remember, again, feeling loss. I thought, well, and we, marriage now is awesome. It rocks. Man, I'm madly in love with my wife. I keep saying it can't get any better, and we just celebrated 27 years, and it keeps getting better. I don't know how that works, but no. I don't deserve it. She deserves it. She has to live with me. Then I was going to be a senior pastor about 7 years ago. I made the big jump from youth pastor to senior pastor, and my church was going to be huge. Huge. It's so easy. You preach well, you have good worship, great personality, it's going to explode. We're going into our second year. We haven't quite got to our second year, and we're at 170 people. And I'll never forget that Sunday, and this is in August, 170 people. We grew all through summer. Last week of August, 170 people. I'm like, we're going to hit 200 before our 2-year mark. This is awesome. I knew this was going to be easy. I was made for this. And then the next week, I found out I had colon cancer. Stage 3, 8 months of chemo, couple surgeries, and during that year and a half of all that, my church grew from 170 to 90. Whew, that's tough. So took that next year, got healthy, had a year of remission, church started to grow again, we got up to 160. Now we're back in gear, baby. We are back. We are back. And then, we're back. Liver cancer. It's, I don't know if you've ever sat in an office where the doctor goes, you're looking at 5 years if you're lucky. Stage 4. So we went through chemo. I had 6 surgeries. They cut out part of my liver, gallbladder, part of my anus, part of my intestine, a couple other things, I don't know. It's a heck of a way to lose weight. And during that time, my church grew from 160 to 70. 70. I figure a couple more cancers, we can have church in my basement. Just us 12. Hey, all right, no setup, no tear down. Praise God. During that time, I saw my dad's church take a beating. I saw my sister's marriage take a beating. I saw my other sister's marriage take a beating. During that time, my church, obviously, there were things that were going on. I had people leave my church for all kinds of different reasons and saying all kinds of things about me, a lot of them true. I was left with a huge medical debt. I had one of my best friends just all of a sudden leave me with an $18,000 debt on a business deal that we had gone into. Just say, it's all yours. I'm filing bankruptcy. I remember one day I woke up, I was thinking, things really can't get much worse. My son didn't come home. I was like, not like him. Well, it kind of is, but that night I get a phone call. He's in jail. He's been arrested. He's going to spend 4 days in jail. Been using drugs. I knew that. Then he started dealing drugs and got busted. Things can't get much worse, can they? Then my business partner, another business partner, I own a gym. He decided to put a gun to his head and pull the trigger. Left me with debt, left me with a whole area of problems. And you're thinking, things really can't get that much worse, can they? Really? And then all of a sudden my son goes missing for 4 days. Can't get a hold of him. He's not answering his phone. None of his friends will return my phone calls. I can't get a hold of anybody. Found out he was in the hospital. He had OD'd on heroin. And then in May of this year, after I was supposed to be celebrating a year of being cancer-free, supposed to be feeling great, May of this year, I went into my doctor. I said, man, something is just not right. It's just not, I don't know what it is. Something's not connecting. A year after my last chemo, I felt really good. I felt like I'm turning the corner. I said, now it's been a year, and I feel like crap. So they ran some tests, and they found a brain tumor. Have you ever had one of those moments, lives, where you're just like, I'm ready to tap? Darts choke up around you. You don't know what's coming. You know, start to lose oxygen. Lights start to dim, and you're like, I'm good. I'm done. I remember that morning going, I don't remember. Let me think. Yeah, I don't remember signing up for this. I don't remember that list going around. The list where, hey, life's going pretty well, but sign here, it'll really take a turn. And I remember thinking, going through all this, that I was not going to turn my back on God. I wasn't going to get mad at God. I wasn't going to fall away from God. I wasn't going to get lukewarm from God. I just remember thinking, I'm going to serve God. We're going to make this. We're going to get through it. We're going to stick through it. And this last week, as I was praying and thinking about tonight, I was hoping, and I'm believing that there are some of us here who are at that point where you're ready to tap. But I didn't sign up for this. Thinking of Elisha in the cave where he's had it. He's done. He's had all these ups and downs, and he's ready to die. And the word of the Lord comes to him and revives him. And I'm hoping tonight that that's what happens. Because I believe some of you, it may not be pain, it may not be struggles, it may not be suffering, though I believe there are some here that are going through that. Maybe everything's going great for you, because I know one thing, pain can push us away from God, and pleasure can pull us away from God. Either one's bad. So tonight I want to just give some thoughts on what makes it worth it to serve God. How can you continue to serve God through the good times, the bad times? Last year when I found out I had liver cancer, I was reading and praying, and I love the book of Daniel. It's always been my favorite book. And I love in Daniel 3:18 where Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are going to get thrown into the fire. And King Nebuchadnezzar says, okay, you're going to bow. Most of you know the story. They don't bow, and he says, okay, you're going to get thrown into a furnace. And he says, we'll play the music one more time, and I'm going to give you a second chance. And they still don't bow, and he's like, man, stoke that baby. And so Daniel 3:18, he's standing in front of the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he says, you didn't bow, we're going to throw you into the fiery furnace. And I love this. I love that they say, honorable king. There's a lesson there. He's your authority. He's trying to kill you, and you still honor him. Different sermon. Honorable king, God might save us. He could save us. We know he can save us, but he might not. But even if he doesn't, we're not going to bow. I remember laying in bed getting ready for one of the surgeries, and they come in and they charm you with all the things that could go wrong. And then you have to sign off on it so you don't sue. It's like, really, are you this bad? I got to sign papers that I'm not going to sue you? But I remember sitting there, and I had a close friend of mine in the room, and I remember just being at such peace and just saying, you know what? I might come out of this. I might not come out of this. But I'm not bowing. I'm not going to turn my back on God. If you look at Daniel chapter 1, within the first few verses, you see where Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, specifically Daniel, it says that he had already resolved in his heart to serve God. before there was ever a test, before there was any trial, before there was a fiery furnace, before there was a lion's den, said he had already resolved in his heart, I'm not going to bow. One of the things I've been trying to teach my boys, my two sons, this last year, is that Jesus isn't a life coach. We don't get all excited and read and pray all these verses, and you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. And yeah. And you're more than a conqueror, and I believe all that. But Jesus isn't your key to success. He's your key to holiness. Two way opposite topics. And I keep telling them, listen, it's not always going to seem worth it to serve Jesus. And trust me, if you served a life coach and you went through the things I went through, you need a different life coach. But we don't serve a life coach, we serve Jesus. I said, so right now, I want you to know, regardless of what Dad goes through, I'm serving God. And regardless of what you go through, you need to serve God. And it may look like it's tough on me, and you may think, man, what's going on? Why is he doing this to you? What's happening? Trust me, even on my worst day when I'm bitter and mad and grouchy and poop my pants, do that a lot on chemo. Know this, in my heart, I have resolved, I have determined I'm going to serve God. One of the things they teach you, and I've gone through quite a bit of chemo, is you have to prepare yourself for those days when you want to give up. Because it's my right to stop chemo anytime I want to. This last time through chemo, my first time was 8 months, the second time was supposed to be 7 months, and at 6 months, I said, I'm done. I'm not going to go the last month. Prayed about it, talked to my family, talked to my doctor. But you have a right at any time to say, I'm done. It's over. Now you might say, I thought it's saving your life. It is. Then why would you quit? Unless you've been there, you can't even understand. But one of the things my doctor, and you go through this chemo class, they tell you to do is to write letters to yourself. So on those days when you want to give up, you can pull out one of those letters that you wrote when you were clear-headed. You weren't so chemo fuzzy, out of your head, nauseous, just at the end of your rope. Write a bunch of letters before you get to that point so that when you have one of those days, you pull out one of those special letters and you open up. It's like a letter of resolve. I don't know where I'm going to be in 3 months. I don't know where I'm going to be mentally. I don't know where I'm going to be physically. I don't know what's going to be going on. But right now, while I'm thinking straight, I'm choosing to go through chemo. Right now, when I'm thinking straight, I'm choosing to serve God. Even if tonight I go home and my husband says, I've found somebody else. Even if I go home tonight and find out my son or my daughter died in a car accident. Even if I find out tomorrow that I've got cancer. I've resolved right now. I remember one of the greatest things I ever heard in my life was never doubt in the dark what you believed in the light. So on one particular day, I came downstairs from my bedroom, and I just pooped all over the bed. I'd already thrown up twice that day, lost my hair, lost about 80, 90 pounds from where I'm at right now. And I went downstairs and I looked at my wife. I said, and this is like month 3 and a half. And I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to call my doctor. I'm not doing this. She said, do you want to quit? I said, yeah, quit. Yeah, I'm quit. I quitted. I done quitted. I figured it out. On the way down the stairs, I quitted. I'm a quitter. We're done. And my wife, she's pretty smart. She said, okay, you can quit today. Give up for today. Quit for today. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I quit. I'm done. It's over. I'm not. They stick another needle in me. They come at me with a needle. Heads are going to roll. It's over. She said, well, okay. Why don't you go read one of your letters? Why don't you go read one of your letters? Yeah. I went downstairs. I don't know if it was this letter, because I wrote quite a few, but this is one of them. Dear Garth, wow, what a life, huh? What a week, what a day. Right about now, you're probably hoping this letter really gives you supernatural strength and courage. But most likely, it probably won't. In fact, you may read it and still want to give up. You may have just thrown up for the third time or pooped your pants again. You may be so sick you can't stand up and all you want to do is sleep. You want to give up, and that's why you are reading this letter. Don't. Let me remind you of why you don't want to give up. In just a few months, your son is getting married. That means possibly grandkids in the future. Food will once again taste good. You're setting an example for your boys in how to handle suffering. You will gain strength. You will gain your weight back. You will once again play the guitar with passion. You will at some point push more weight in the weight room than you ever have. Your parents need their son. Your sisters need their brother. Your boys need their dad. Your wife needs her husband. Yep. And someday again, you'll be able to make love to your wife. These right now may seem like empty words, but remember, never doubt in the dark what you know to be true in the light. Hey, Garth, you got this. Scripture has plenty of remembers. If you do a search on how many times Jesus said, remember, 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 it's all over the Gospels. Remember. Maybe you're here tonight and you're like, I was coming just to see you or to check it out or whatever, but I kind of gave up a long time ago. I would challenge you to remember when you were at your zenith, on fire for God. Remember when you gave your heart to Christ. Remember when you were on fire. Remember when you said, I will serve you forever, as an 8th grader at Bible camp. Remember. Second thought, Daniel 3:18 again says, we will not bow down. We will not worship any other God. I love the old English translation of worship. It's worth-ship. Worth. Whatever is worth in your life, you give time, attention, money to, that's what you worship. It's worth-ship. These boys say, we will not give worth to anything else but Jesus, but to God. It means we will not show reverence, we will not show respect, we will not pay our dues, we will not give a second glance towards anything other than God, because it's not worth it. God is worth it. He is worth our time. He is worth everything. He's worth everything regardless of what we're going through. He's worth it. Everything in me wants to try to explain to you why he's worth it. But if you don't know him, you just can't. Every struggle, every pain, every problem that I went through in my marriage only created a more deeper, meaningful, intimate marriage. And if you said, Garth, I give you the option to get married and immediately have a great marriage or relive the first 5 years, I would have to relive the first 5 years, because I know the worth that it brought in my relationship to my wife. I know the worth, the depth, the intimacy that it brought because of the struggle, because of the pain, because of the suffering, because of the questions, because of just all the And yet we chose to work it out, to get counseling, to talk, to pray. Man, was it worth it. It's worth it. God is worthy. Tell my boys this all the time. Got a lot of friends, you meet a lot of church planters, and I've had a lot of church planters, the friends of mine that just can't do it anymore. I'm done. People are stupid. They don't want to learn. I'm doing all the work. And they get all whatever attitude, and they just quit. They either go back as a youth pastor where it's easy, or they, get a job selling cars. Praise God if you're a car salesman. I don't know how you can do that job. And they just give up. And my boys, they know a lot of these guys who do that. And I say, remember this. We don't serve God because he's going to grow our church or our bank account or make us look good. We don't serve God because he's going to keep us healthy. We don't serve God because he's going to keep us out of a car accident or make life easy or make marriage easy. We don't serve God because of all the things and all the trappings and all the reasons that so many people do. We serve God simply for this. He's worth it. I don't mean like, well, yeah, he's worth it. Yeah, it's good payoff. No. He's that valuable. He's that worthy. He's worthy of our time. He's worthy of our sacrifice. He's worth it. I love Psalm 100. Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs. Know that the Lord is God. It is he who made us, and we are his people, the sheep of his pasture. Up to this point, everything's great. Shout to the Lord, all is good. Hallelujah. We're the sheep of his pasture. Bah, all right. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. Yeah. For the Lord is good, and his love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations. Sounds so good. Who couldn't get excited about that? We're the sheep of his pasture, and we enter into his courts with praise. But there's a problem. The only time a sheep entered into the courts was to be sacrificed. Where are we going? You never let me in here before. But I thought I was your favorite. I'm without spot or wrinkle. I'm perfect. I'm the best you have. Why are we going? What's that knife? We are to be a living sacrifice because he's worth it. I have learned that as in my life, as I've tried to, my saying that I've been living the last 7-8 years is make God look good, MGLG. And in my wrestling through all this sickness and disease, I've had many times where I've had people in my gym who are not Christians literally stop me. In fact, I had my own son, my youngest, say, "Really? You're still going to serve God?" I had a guy in my gym say, "Man, if I knew I only had 5 years left, I shouldn't be boxed in by your religion. I'd be sleeping around, doing drugs, partying, having fun, do anything I could. You got 5 years, man. You better live it up. I can't believe that you would still serve God and be like, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. Enjoy the next 5 years." And I remember saying, well, guess what? It's worth it. I am to be a living sacrifice. The suffering that we go through opens doors that could never be opened to share the gospel. That's one of the most beautiful things about it. Robert Cromwell from Britain in the military tells a beautiful story. There was a young corporal who was found guilty in court. I never found out why. But this young man was sentenced to death at midnight. When the bell rang, they were to execute him by gunfire. Sent him off to the cell. I'm sure every minute felt like an hour. And finally, as it approached midnight, they drug him out to the courtyard. They blindfolded him. And there was this huge bell tower, and when the bell would strike 12, they would then pull the trigger and he would die. So they're counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There are 2 soldiers, because it took 2 soldiers to pull the rope and ring this bell. It was a huge bell. You could hear it all across the countryside. and these two soldiers heave down on it. Nothing happens. They heave down on it again. They start heaving, and they're pulling, and Cromwell's getting irritated, and he waves two other soldiers over. Help them. Get over there. And they're pulling on this rope, and they can see in the shadows the bell's just swinging, but nothing, no sound, nothing. And Cromwell gets so irritated, he's like, somebody find out why that bell's not ringing. Two soldiers scamper up into the tower, all the way to the top. A few minutes later, they come down, they emerge, which you can tell with this once beautiful woman now bruised and gashed and beat. It looked like you beat her up with sledgehammers. They laid her down at the general's feet, and he said she had tied herself up to the huge clapper inside the bell so it wouldn't ring. And he said, who are you? She said, I'm his fiancée. And tonight, I just could not stand to see him die. Cromwell was so touched by her love and devotion for him that he let the soldier go. I used to read scriptures when it said we should revel, we should rejoice in our trials and our sufferings, and go, I don't know if I can do that. I'll pretend, because I know you're supposed to. But when I begin to realize that through my sufferings and my trials, it opens up more and more opportunities to make God look good, to share the gospel, it makes it a little, not a lot, a little easier to worship God, to serve Him. Genesis 22, Abraham is promised to be the father of a great nation. It's cut to the chase. 100 and some years old, finally has a son, and it was a miracle because they did not have Viagra back then. And so Isaac is born, and Isaac starts to grow up, and he's a young man, and God says to Abraham, I want you to take Isaac up, and I want you to sacrifice him. A lot of you know the story. He takes Isaac up the mountainside, and he lays him down the altar, and he's going to sacrifice him, and Abraham is so in tune with God, he's so like, okay, I'm set, I'm doing this, that the angel of the Lord literally has to stop his hand. Okay, because I'd kind of be like this. Oh yeah, no, I'm going to do it. Yeah. No, I'm going to do it. I'm stretching. I don't want to pull a muscle. Yeah. All right, I'm going to do it now. 3, 2, 1. Not Abraham. Abraham's, you want me to sacrifice him? Okay. Isaac, lay down. All right. Angel of the Lord has to stop him. He's so committed. Abraham's like, I know this is the heir, this is the promise, this is the future to numbered stars of how many descendants and the nation of Israel, blah, blah, blah. I know all that. But God, if you say to kill him, I'll kill him. And that's all wonderful, but I've never thought of it from that perspective. I've always thought of it from Isaac's perspective. Like, I don't get this. Are you sure, Dad? Okay. What kind of father was Abraham that his son trusted him so much that he was willing to say, okay, Dad, you need to sacrifice me? Is that what God wants? Okay. Many of us hear how we go through suffering. If you're a parent especially, it's going to speak volumes to your kids. It's going to speak volume to your neighbors. I love my mom and dad. No greater parents. I saw them, if you're a pastor, you know, but I saw them just get beat up and continue to love people and love people and love people and love people. I saw them pour their bank account, their time, their money, their energy, their life. I heard my dad every Sunday afternoon, 2 hours in the basement, pray for people in the church. Every morning, get up early and pray for people in the church. The same people who talked behind his back, who gossiped, who cursed him, who questioned his decision, all this stuff. I heard him pray and cry for these people. I personally wanted to beat him up. But the example that he set, I cannot escape. Okay, God, if this is what you want? Okay. I'm to be a living sacrifice, so okay. It's what I saw modeled in my house. I'll end with this. There's a young man. He had just gotten saved. He's about 18 years old. I don't drink all sermons, so I needed that. He had just gotten saved, and he'd heard his youth pastor talk about how 2/3 of the youth group in 5 years won't be serving God. And it's kind of true. And he's like, that's not me. That's not going to be me. I'm going to serve God no matter what. But it just kept eating at him. And so he thought, you know what? I'm going to find someone in our church who served God for a super long time. And he started to study this gentleman who was in his 60s. And he'd heard that he had ups and downs and goods and bads and highs and lows, but he still kept serving God. And so he goes to him and he said, sir, I just gave my heart to the Lord a few months ago, and I've been told that 2/3 of our youth group in just 5 years are not going to serve God anymore. And I know that you've served God your whole life. No matter what you faced, you've always served God. Can you teach me? And he said, sure. Because I want to know the secret. I said, sure. Meet me at the beach tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. The kid's geeked. He's like, yeah. We're gonna walk the beach, and he's gonna read scripture, and we're gonna pray. The Holy Spirit's gonna show up. This is gonna be amazing. And so he gets there that morning, 5:45. He's waiting, and he sees this older guy pull up in his car and walk down the beach right to the edge of the ocean. And he's talking, and he's like, okay, what do we do first? He goes, I want you to walk out into the water. He's like, okay, all right. So he walks out about knee deep, and it's like, well, maybe this is where, Jesus spoke over the water and people could hear him better, or I don't know. He goes, now what? He goes, no, keep walking. So he walks out about, waist deep, and he's like, oh, there's that story where the guy has leprosy, and he tells him to dunk 7 times, and he does, and then he's like, oh, I know where this is going. He's like, all right. No, keep going. This guy has lost his mind. Keep going. So he gets out to about here, and the waves are coming. And it's like, all right, now what? He goes, no, keep going. What? He's fooling me, man. This is what it is. So he goes out where he's just treading water. And he's like, all right, I'm not standing right now. I'm just treading water. He's like, good. Well, how long do I do this? Just keep doing it. After a few minutes, he's like, I can't do this much longer. He said, oh, just stay there. I'll come out. Stay there. The older gentleman gets in the water, starts to swim out to him. And he's like, oh, this guy's going to save me, and this is going to be like a picture of Jesus, and Jesus, I get it, okay. And he's like, and the old guy gets up to him, and he's about to say something, and he puts his hand on the kid's shoulder, and he dunks him under. And he comes back out, he's like, what are you doing? I'm just, and he dunks him under again. And now he knows this guy has lost his mind. Senility is set in. He is like Alzheimer's, and it's gone. I'm going to die at the hands of a 63-year-old man. And he comes back up a second time, and he's trying to say something again, and this time the guy dunks him a third time and holds him down to where like just a few air bubbles left are coming up. And then he lifts him up, and the guy's choking and sputtered, can't even swim. He drags him to the side of the beach, and the kid's just sitting there, and he's just breathing and spitting and snorting water, and he's ticked, but he's just so white. And the old man gets right up next to him, and he goes, hey, what was most important out there to you? Air! And then he gets real close to his ear. This is the air I breathe. Your holy presence working in me. You are my daily bread. The kid's like, I get it. I get it. He says, when you get to a point where you eat, breathe, and sleep Jesus, you can go through anything. So the guy leans across the table and he says, man, you've been through everything. Why would you constantly try to climb Mount Everest? And he said, it's obvious. You haven't been to the top. You haven't seen what I've seen. Because for the few minutes that you're at the top and you see what I see, you know it's worth it. Folks, there have been a couple times when I've been to the top. And I hang on to those times for when I'm at the bottom. Because it's those times when I'm at the top and I realize he is so worthy. He is so worth it. I'm willingly a living sacrifice for him. There's no way I could ever turn my back on him. There's no way I could ever not live for him or serve him. I was searching for an answer. Garth, what is it that has caused you to serve God in light of all the crap you've gone through? I wanted something profound. I wanted that lightning strike, that, yeah, boy, this is going to blow people away. The insight, the wisdom, the illumination, the use of the Greek, And all I can say, and I hope you're there, is that I am so in love with Jesus. So in love. Everything he's done for me. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm a sinner. And he loved me while I was a sinner. And I still sin. And he still loves me and forgives me. I'm so in love with him. There's no way I'm not going to ever love him, serve him, live for him. He's worth it. I believe there are people here tonight, and you already gave up. I mean, it looks good on the outside, but you've already given up. There are people here, maybe you came to see me, you haven't seen me in a while. I wonder how Garth is. And you gave up a long time ago, and you're not even hiding it. And maybe there's some of you here, you're like, I never even thought it through. Things have gone pretty good. I haven't really had a real test or a real problem, so I would ask tonight that you make a resolve in your heart at the altar. Say, tonight, I'm choosing to never, ever to quit serving or loving my God. That tonight you would say, Father, help me. Because right now I don't feel in love with you, but help me fall in love with you to that degree where, let me see how worth you are, that I might be a living sacrifice. There's no magic formula. I wish there was. It'd be a whole lot easier. We could have skipped the sermon. It's just time with Jesus. There, that's the secret. I slipped out, sorry. Time with Jesus. Would you join me down here? If that's you, let's just spend some time with Jesus. If you want prayer, I know there'll be other pastors down here. But let's just spend some time with Jesus, because that's really what it's all about. It's Jesus. It's all it's about. I'll meet you down here.
Wake, oh north wind, wake, oh south wind, blow